And basically, when you have 30 seconds left, I'll show you this card, and then when your time is up, I'll show you the red. And I'll just hold it up long enough to make eye contact so that I know you see it. And if you can't see it from here, then I'll just throw it at you. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Pittsburgh Law Enforcement Center for tonight's candidate forum, focusing on the race, first of all, for Crawford County Clerk, and then at 7 o'clock tonight, we'll shift the focus to the Crawford County Register of Deeds candidates. But first, want to welcome both of our candidates. Thank you both for being here tonight. Thank you to those in attendance, and thank you to all those that are watching on the city's public access channel. And we certainly appreciate the city of Pittsburgh for hosting us this evening and making that possible for so many local residents to view it on their TVs at home. My name is Blake Benson. I'll serve as the moderator for tonight's event alongside Patrick Richardson, who's the managing editor of the Morning Sun. Mr. Richardson will serve as our proctor tonight. He'll filter all the questions from the audience. So we look forward to a good forum tonight. This is not necessarily a debate, but obviously a great opportunity for the candidates to air their views on a variety of subjects. A couple of housekeeping notes, just so everyone is clear on the format for tonight. Both of our candidates will be allowed a 2-minute opening statement, and then we will ask you up to 3 questions that you received in advance. And basically that's just to get the discussion going. And we would encourage our audience members, while the candidates are answering those prepared questions, we have cards and pens at the back of the room. If the audience members would like to submit a question in writing to Pat Richardson, Pat will look over those. The criteria on our questions are that they are fair and applicable to both candidates. So it's important that our audience members know that criteria for the questions. If they don't meet those guidelines, Pat will push them off to the side. If they do, then he'll funnel them to me, and I'll ask the questions at the appropriate time. So any questions before we get started? Okay. All right. We'll begin with opening statements. And Liz Hart, you go first.
All right. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Thank the Pittsburgh Area Chamber of Commerce and the City of Pittsburgh and the Morning Sun for hosting this for us. My name is Liz Hart, as I said, and I'm your Republican candidate for county clerk. I moved to Crawford County in 1996 to attend Pittsburgh State University and been here for the last 20 years. I could not think of a better community to raise a family in. My husband, Justin, he works here at the City of Pittsburgh as a network administrator. He attended and graduated from Girard High School and Pitt State University. We have 3 wonderful daughters: Hallie, who is a freshman at Girard High School, Sydney, who is in 8th grade at Pittsburgh Middle School, and Chloe, who's in 4th grade at R.V. Hatterline Elementary in Girard. We're very blessed to live just south of Mulberry, next to Justin's parents, where he grew up, was raised, and lived almost all of his life now. As a family, we love camping and exploring new locations. We're a very active family at the First Christian Church of Girard. We have both served on, or are currently serving on, several committees there. I am the co-chair of the Girard Area Vacation Bible School. In 2005, I started serving the citizens of Crawford County at the courthouse. For 7.5 years, I worked in the clerk's office as the director of election services. Plus, I assisted with all the other functions in the office. For the last 3.5, I've been the Road and Bridge coordinator over in the Road and Bridge. And then before that, for 7 years, I was with a technology education company as a curriculum project manager.
Very good. All right. Second opening statement this evening, Mr. Don Pyle.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to thank the Morning Sun and the Pittsburgh Area Chamber for hosting this event. I am Don Pyle. I'm the current county clerk. I'm honored to serve the residents of Crawford County on a daily basis, and I hope to be elected for another 4 years of service to the county. I feel that I would like to thank people that showed up for me. My wife, LaDonna, and my two sons, Dylan and Boone, are in the audience, and thanks for being here. I would like to say that I feel that I offer the citizens of Crawford County a better choice for the office of county clerk in 3 different categories, and important categories. That's my qualifications, my experience, and my relationships in the county. I grew up in Girard, graduated from high school there. I went to Pitt State, graduated with a bachelor's degree in accounting, and I've worked as an accountant in private industry for nearly 20 years. During that time, I was an accounting manager in the banking industry. I was an accountant for a grain company, and I was controller for a street and road contractor. I managed the business offices for those companies, including, payroll and benefits management, cash management, as well as accounts receivable, accounts payable, things like that. The fiscal clerk's office, which is about 1/3 of the operation of the county clerk's office, does exactly these things on a daily basis for the county. I try to make sure that we're in compliance with all auditing guidelines. My accounting experience helps us to be sure we're doing that, and I also help manage the benefits and our reporting duties over there. Also, my relationships that I've developed over my life in the county, I think, are very important. In the past 11 years in the clerk's office, I've worked with a lot of local government representatives, as well as other people in the public, to make sure that Crawford County is doing the best thing for them. Anyway, those are the things that I think are important for me as a candidate.
Okay, thank you both. And just so the audience members know, the yellow card means they have 30 seconds left, and the red card means that time is up. So I forgot to mention that a little bit earlier. So we'll now move to the prepared questions that both candidates received about a week ago. And again, I would encourage the audience members, pardon me, if they would like to submit a question, write it down on the cards provided at the back of the room. Get it to Mr. Richardson. He'll look over it, and if it meets the criteria, then we'll pass that on to the candidates. Our first prepared question tonight will be answered first by Mr. Pyle, and the question is this: do you anticipate significant changes to the clerk's office if you are elected or re-elected? Mr. Pyle.
It's a very good question. Change is inevitable, and we need to try to prepare for it as best as we can. Usually in the clerk's office, there are things that make us change what we do. Those are changes in state law that makes it necessary for us to change our operations, changes in practices or technology that might change the way we do things in our office because those items are outdated or obsolete. And there might be changes that are made just because we realize it makes more sense and it makes our operation more efficient. Over the past several years, we have instituted several changes that we think make us more efficient. In 2009, I took over preparing the county budget, which had been prepared by an outside accountant for forever, for about $6,000 a year. Every year is what we were charged for the preparation of our budget. So the 2017 budget, which we just approved, was the 8th budget that I've prepared for the county without any additional personnel or any other kind of expenses to the county. Of course, there are changes that come about because of changes in the law. The Senate Bill 316, which was passed during the legislative session, and takes effect next year, is commonly called the property tax lid bill. It makes any kind of changes or increases in property taxes by budgeting for cities and counties. Those have to be approved by a full vote of the electors of that district. These changes and that election timeline in there has caused many of the deadlines and schedule for finalizing property values for both the appraiser's office and the clerk's office to change drastically. So we've got to be prepared for that change. Other changes are going to take place in our elections department. Our equipment is wearing out. We're going to have to figure out what we need to do. I want to interact with citizens to try to get their ideas on that, make sure we're preparing for the future that will satisfy our citizens in Crawford County.
Thank you, Mr. Pyle. Same question, Ms. Hart.
Okay. Some of the changes that I'd like to see, if I'm elected county clerk, I would like to make sure that all of the employees and myself have had the proper training and cross-training with all aspects of the office. That way, if a customer comes in or a citizen comes in with a question, we're able to answer it, or we have the access to the proper resources to find them the correct answer. I feel that with this proper training, some of the errors that have happened recently could have been avoided. So I want to make sure that every employee plus myself has that training. I would also like to review the locations and the facilities that are being used for some of the polling places. I would like to reopen the polling places in Walnut and Hepler. Those are the only two incorporated cities within Crawford County that does not have polling places. I feel that there should be entitled to a polling place the same as Arcadia, Mulberry, or McCune. I'd also like to relocate the polling place that is currently at the Pittsburgh Public Utility Building. I've had several citizens and poll workers express concerns about that location, so I'd like to see where we could find a new location that will make it better for the voters and the workers that are there for the day. My last thing that I would like to look into and implement is a new hiring procedures and nepotism policy. I want to make sure that the most qualified citizen of Crawford County are hired based on their experience and their qualifications.
Very good. All right, our second prepared question tonight will be answered first by Ms. Hart, and the question is this. What do you see as the greatest challenge facing Crawford County, and how can the clerk's office play a role in addressing this?
I feel that the biggest thing that's facing this county right now is that recent report that was released saying that Crawford County is the poorest county in Kansas. I want to make sure that when I'm in office that I spend every dime wisely that is budgeted towards the offices that I will be overseeing. I want to be a good steward of the taxpayers' money. When I was in the clerk's office, I was in charge of programming the ballots and the ballot counting machines. When I started doing that, it saved the taxpayers over $10,000 a year. Since I have left the office, they are paying a third party to do it again. Once I'm elected into office, we will be doing that in-house again and bringing that savings to the taxpayer. Well, another thing I want to make sure to do to save taxpayers is make sure that every budget that is submitted to the county is reviewed. One of the duties of the clerk's office is to review budgets that are submitted by other entities. In 2012, USD 247 Southeast submitted their 2013 budget with 4 mills levied for capital outlay. USD 247 forgot or did not publish the resolution necessary to assess those 4 mills. That was missed when it was turned into the county, and taxpayers were illegally collected. Those four mills were illegally collected from taxpayers. I want to make sure that no taxpayer is unlawfully taxed. The last thing that I would like to do is with Kansas Crossing Casino opening up next year, the county will be receiving 1% of that revenue. With the extra funds coming into the county, I will not increase my budget unless absolutely necessary. There's always ways to make cuts and still provide the services that are necessary to the citizens.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pyle.
I think that probably the greatest challenge for Crawford County is the funding for the next few years. Local governments have experienced significant decreases in their state funding to help pay for services that those local governments are required by law to provide. One example of this has been our Community Mental Health Center in Crawford County. Over the last 10 years, state funding for those services, which we are required by state law to provide, the funding has been decreased dramatically to where now we are using more taxpayer money to pay for those services. try to there's other places in Crawford County budget where we have pressure to provide services, roads and bridge, law enforcement, other things like that. We need to find ways other than property taxes to pay for those services. I think that's a good reason that my financial and accounting background will help me to be able to analyze those places where we can find additional revenues, look for things that are off the grid, so to speak, and try to find additional funding to pay for those without burdening the taxpayers of Crawford County. It's also, we provide, like I said, many services that with a limited amount of funding, we want to make sure that we can do that as well as possible without burdening our taxpayers.
Okay. I want to remind the audience members that they can submit questions, unless you're hiding some. I don't believe any have been submitted just yet, and this might be a brief forum tonight if we don't have any questions after the third prepared question here, so I would encourage the audience to submit those. Our third prepared question will be answered first by Mr. Pyle. In 2015, a county clerk in Kentucky created controversy by refusing to issue same-sex marriage licenses despite a ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court that they were legal. And while I won't ask you specifically about that issue, that might be a little heavy for a county clerk candidate forum, do you foresee any scenario where, as Crawford County Clerk, you would refuse to abide by a ruling from the U.S. or the Kansas Supreme Courts? Mr. Pyle.
Right. Well, fortunately for me, in the state of Kansas, those marriage licenses are issued by the district court, so I didn't have to worry about that. But one thing we do whenever we take office, and I've done it, 3 times now, is to swear an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Kansas. This is an oath that I take very seriously, and every office holder should. The office of county clerk is an office that is created and governed by the laws of the state of Kansas and created under the authority and are subject to the Constitution of the state of Kansas. So the great majority of our work that we do is assigned specifically to us by laws of the state of Kansas that are created under that Constitution. It's hard to imagine a situation where we would refuse to abide by a ruling of the U.S. or the Kansas Supreme Court. Those courts are also created by the Constitution of the state and the federal Constitution. They are obliged to render decisions on whether laws are constitutional or not. So that once they render a decision, basically that takes the force of law. That is like any law that was passed by the state legislature or the Congress of the United States. So it's hard to imagine a situation like that would arise. I think in your office you would have to put aside your personal feelings and go by the office or the oath that you swore to uphold. If it put me in a position where I was directly in contact with some of my personal convictions, I would probably resign my office before I violated that oath. Thank you.
Very good. Ms. Hart.
And on the same things that Mr. Pyle said, the oath that will be taken states, I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Kansas. By taking that, I don't see how I could not abide by any rules or laws that came down from the U.S. Supreme Court or the Kansas Supreme Court. I will strive to fulfill the statutory duties of the office in a prompt and effective manner. And then I'll also do everything possible to make sure that these laws are followed, but still assist the citizens of Crawford County. I feel that as a public servant, our job, we are put there to help the citizens. They are the ones that put us into office. And so I feel that it would be that I need to assist those citizens as much as I can without breaking any laws. And I would also expect every member of my staff to follow those same rules in doing that.
Very good. Seeing no questions from the audience, this may be the quickest candidate forum in election history, so congratulations. Okay,
Uh-oh.
we have one. And it does have to be a question applicable to both candidates. So I believe that one was maybe geared toward one side.
It was
so-
toward one candidate, so.
That being said, we'll now move to our closing comments and delivered first tonight by Ms. Hart. You have 2 minutes.
All right. And once again, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for coming out tonight, plus giving me this opportunity to share more about myself and my campaign. I feel that I have the experience necessary to be your next Crawford County Clerk. I have the experience of leading employees, working within a budget, conducting fair, timely, and accurate elections. I have the proven leadership and experience to undertake these duties to serve each and every one of you. I look forward to the challenge of being your next Crawford County Clerk, and I really would appreciate each and every one of your votes on November 8th. If at any time you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me. Anything about me as a candidate or anything that I can help you with. I'm always open for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pyle.
Right, thank you very much. I would like also to thank everybody for coming out tonight. It's very important, as a person who administers elections, I think it's very important that you understand where your candidates stand and get to know about each, as much as you can about each of them. I'd like to say I've been really blessed to be twice elected to be the county clerk for Crawford County. It's a place I love to call home. When you're at conferences around the state, people always seem to have interesting stories about being in Crawford County. A lot of people went to school here that have come here to enjoy some of our culture, some of our heritage, and it really makes me proud to serve the residents here. I've worked in the county clerk's office for nearly 12 years now. I mean, it's a place 20 years ago that I never would have thought I've been. I was working as an accountant, like I said, in private industry. Happy to do that. I found a place here. I was offered a job in 2005, and I've really enjoyed it ever since then. You understand how my accounting background applies to this office. The budgeting, the reviewing, the mill levies was something new, things like that. But working in our fiscal office is just what I had done for 20 years in business. And so it's good to transfer that knowledge over to the public sector. I would like to say that in response to something like the discussion of the Pittsburgh Public Utilities building, I've already found a replacement for that polling place. We'll be having elections there next year in 2017. That polling place will be at First Baptist Church at 7th and Walnut. And then also on that USD 247 issue, that publication was totally the responsibility of the school district. They certified on their budget that they had passed that levy, using all the state laws. And talking to people at the state, there was, once they certify that on their budget, that is their problem. I mean, and we are not supposed to have to try to follow up on that.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pyle. I hope our audience members will give both of our candidates a big round of applause. Thank you again to all those that turned out or may be watching this on TV. We'll remind you we'll take a break and come back at 7 o'clock and focus on the candidates for Register of Deeds. So thank you again for being with us.
Thank you.
I get my opening statement then?
No. That's okay. Yeah. All right, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Pittsburgh Law Enforcement Center for tonight's candidate forum focusing on the race for Crawford County Register of Deeds. My name is Blake Benson. I'll serve as the moderator for tonight's event alongside Patrick Richardson, the managing editor of the Morning Sun. Mr. Richardson will serve as a proctor or a filter for the questions from the audience tonight, and we certainly appreciate you being with us, Pat, and appreciate your service. Thank you to all those that that are attending tonight, as well as those that may be watching on the city's public access channel. We certainly appreciate the City of Pittsburgh for hosting us this evening and for making it available for so many of our residents to watch it on TV. So we appreciate the city's efforts. Some housekeeping notes on our format tonight. Each candidate will begin with a 2-minute opening statement. We'll then go into a series of prepared questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the prepared questions as well. And then we'll move into a phase of the forum tonight where we'll accept questions from the audience. And the way that will go is we have cards and pens at the back of the room. We ask that anyone from the audience that would like to submit a question in writing do so on one of those cards. Get it to Mr. Richardson. The criteria that we have for the submitted questions are that they are fair and applicable to both candidates. And if they fail either one of those criteria, then they will be rejected and we won't ask those tonight. So any questions regarding the format before we get started? Okay. All right. Well, as I mentioned, each candidate will deliver a 2-minute opening statement. Ms. Casey, you will go first this evening.
I would like to thank the Chamber and the Morning Sun for hosting this tonight and the city for allowing us to have it here. My name is Sandy Casey. I would like to start out tonight by telling a little bit about myself. I am married to Todd Casey, and together we have 5 children. My oldest daughter is an attorney in Kansas City. She works for Dairy Farmers of America. My second daughter is a nurse and works at a surgery center in Kansas City. And my third daughter, who just recently got married, is also a nurse in Kansas City and works at KU Med Center. Our son Tyler has ProX, as well as some other businesses in town. And our other son Travis works with his dad at Crestwood Country Club. I am a lifelong resident of Crawford County, and I love it here. I can't think of any place I'd rather live. So my kids would like me to move to Kansas City, but that's not going to happen. So anyway, right now I'm set here, so I like it here. A little bit about myself also, as far as my work. I bring 37 years of experience serving the residents of Crawford County in both the private and public sector. I currently work at the Crawford County Sheriff's Office, and I've been there for over 25 years. My duties at the Sheriff's Office require accuracy in maintaining important records. I work with attorneys in coordinating all aspects of the sheriff's sales to make sure that the sales are conducted according to law. I review all the legal property deeds in connection with these sales. I have also been responsible for preparing and reporting records to all levels of government, including the Crawford County Attorney's Office, the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, the Kansas Department of Emergency Management, and the U.S. Department of Justice. Prior to working in the Sheriff's Office, I worked at a local law firm here in Pittsburgh as a paralegal. I also have experience in accounting and in manufacturing. I have a very strong work ethic. I am willing to put in the time and hard work to do the job the best I can for the taxpayers of Crawford County. I have the qualifications and the experience needed for the position of Register of Deeds.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Casey. And I should have mentioned, and I apologize, when the candidates get to 30 seconds left on their time, I'll hold up a yellow card, and then when their time is up, I'll hold up a red card. So for the second time in a row, I forgot to mention that. So I do apologize. Second to give their opening statement tonight, Mr. Bedini.
Hi. I'd like to thank the Blake and the Chamber of Commerce and Patrick and the Morning Sun for putting this forum on. I have my wife Cindy and 2 daughters, Kelly and Kylie. Kylie lives in Oklahoma as a OCC bank examiner. Kelly is a surgical nurse for Freeman Surgical Center here in Pittsburgh. I've been a lifelong resident of Crawford County. I grew up in Arma, graduated from Crawford County Community High School, attended PSU prior to joining the Kansas Army National Guard. And after my active duty service, I returned home and spent the next 47 years in banking. And through those 47 years in banking, I met a lot of good people that I helped get loans for homes and land that required mortgages. And I also helped a lot of people do deed transfers among family members. After retiring for a year and realizing that the Register of Deeds office was open, I thought that my background would be a good fit for this position. I have 47 years in banking experience being an owner-operator and dealing with deeds and mortgages. I was Chief Executive Officer. I held the positions of Executive Vice President and President executive vice president and president. And over those 40 years, I was in charge of lending, budgeting, human resources, compliance, privacy, security, customer service, operations, and information technology. I've had to deal with state and federal regulations and be examined on a regular basis by the state and the FDIC. I've been held accountable for accurate records my entire career of 47 years. And when I'm elected, the citizens can be certain that they've elected a highly qualified person. My first priority would be to learn the procedures of the office, get acquainted with the current staff and learn their responsibilities. And I believe that the current staff is an important part of the transition, and that a smooth transition is the best interest of the citizens of Crawford County.
Okay, thank you both. Okay, for those in the audience, we'll now begin accepting our written questions that we'll ask after the prepared questions. So encourage you to write those questions down and get them to Mr. Richardson. We'll now move into our prepared questions that both of the candidates received approximately 1 week ago. And the first prepared question will be answered by Mr. Bedini. How will you improve the public focus of the office and increase the public's awareness of the information available from the Office of the Register of Deeds? 2 minutes.
Since I've filed to run for this office, I've been asked numerous times what the Register of Deeds does. And most of those people, and probably the majority of the citizens, have at one time or another purchased a home or land, done deed transfers. And in most of those instances, I believe that a banker, a lawyer, a real estate agent, or the abstract company has handled those transactions for them. And over the years, those transactions have become highly regulated, so people that are familiar with it can properly do those. And I believe that that's why the awareness is not what I guess you would call it should be, because they're handled by other people than the people who are dealing with buying homes, borrowing money for homes and land.
Okay, very good. Ms. Casey, you have 2 minutes.
If elected, I would improve the focus by instilling excellent public service to the community and to the residents of Crawford County. I would be a hands-on Register of Deeds. I would, by serving at the Sheriff's Office for the last 25 years, I'm used to dealing with the public day in and day out. I do what I can to give them the best possible service possible, and I think that if elected, that if you came to the Register of Deeds office, you could expect a positive experience from me or my staff. I would also, as far as the public awareness, there's a couple different things that I would possibly try to do. The first thing I would do is review the web that they have as far as their online. Today is online. That's everybody wants to go online and be able to access records. And I would like to review that and see if it can be improved upon. Another thing I would like to do is possibly go to organizations and give presentations and let people know what the Registry of Deeds does and how it can be benefited to you. I would also encourage teachers to bring students in or go to the classroom and give a presentation to the students. They're our future, and let them know what we can do for them in the future, what the Registry of Deeds office does, and how we can be of help to them.
Okay, thank you both. Our second prepared question will be answered first tonight by Ms. Casey, and the question is this. How would you improve efficiency in the Register of Deeds office? Ms. Casey.
Well, to really give a credible statement about that, I'd have to have firsthand opportunity to evaluate the current processes. Having not worked in that office currently, that's something you'd have to go in and evaluate in order to know how you could actually improve the efficiency. Jeanette Napodi has been a very great asset to me. She's been very supportive through this campaign. She was a Register of Deeds for 32 years. By her support and giving me an idea of all the interworkings of the office, that's been very beneficial to me. And ways that I could maybe help out and improve is, again, the online, making sure that all the e-filing is done as efficient as possible. So it'd be something you would have to review once you got into office and see what you could actually do, whether there is a need to improve the efficiency, and if so, what avenues to take. I also believe that it's very imperative that the manual indexing is continued and is up to date, so that anytime you do need to go into the office, you would be able to locate the records when needed. And then there's still some old records that I know that they work on in implementing and putting them in the electronic format, and I would implement a schedule to get those on the electronic format in a timely manner.
Very good. Mr. Bedini, 2 minutes.
I believe the current staff is doing a good job, and at this time, as a candidate and banker, I know of no inefficiencies that need to be corrected until I have had time to review the staff and the procedures in the office.
Very good. All right. I will remind the audience members that we're down to our last prepared question. This one might be even quicker than the county clerk forum that we had earlier, trying to break your record. But that's why we're here. We want to hear from the candidates, so we do encourage you to submit those questions. Okay, our third prepared question this evening will be answered first by Mr. Bedini, and it's this. Why is the Register of Deeds an elected office?
The Register of Deeds and other officials in the county have as is the whole state of Kansas, have historically been elected. And most people believe that an elected person is a more democratic process than an appointed person is.
Okay, very good. Ms. Casey.
The Kansas government has set the officer Register of Deeds to be an elected position. I think there are benefits to that. The benefits are that if you are in an elected position, then you're held accountable to the taxpayers. That allows the taxpayers to select the person that they feel is the best for the job, that will, with the qualifications that they have and the attributes that they feel are important. They put that person in office, then you're accountable to them. You know, if you have to answer to the taxpayers, that's good, because they put us there for a reason. They put us there to do a job of public service for them, and I think it's good that it's an elected position. It helps keep us accountable and make sure that we do offer good public service.
Okay, very good. Well, seeing no submitted questions from the audience, we will now move into our closing statements for tonight. Again, the candidates will each get 2 minutes for their closing comments, and we'll begin with you, Ms. Casey.
The position of the Register of Deeds should be held by someone who is intelligent and detail-oriented. The office of the Register of Deeds is very important and is considered by some to be the foundation of the county government. Taxation of real property is essential in financing operations for the local government, and determining ownership is essential for the necessary for the tax assessments. So it's imperative that the records are accurate. Everyone relies on those records. Bankers, real estate agents, buyers, sellers, financial institutions, many others rely on those records. So they rely on those to be accurate, so that when they can do what they need to do, that they can count on the records being for sure to be correct. The state of Kansas has statutes that govern the duties of the Register of Deeds. So the person in that position should be able to understand and apply the statutes to the processing of recording the various instruments affecting real estate. I feel my work experience has prepared me for this position. When I worked in the law office, I interpreted statutes and doing legal research. I currently deal with statutes every day because every crime committed is charged by statute. So every day I have to interpret statutes to make sure that what the officers complete are the correct statutes for the crime that's been committed. So it is good to be able to interpret those statutes because it is a big part of the Register of Deeds office. I have a very strong work ethic. I strive to be accurate and efficient. For the past 37 years, I worked in an office environment, working above and beyond what's expected of me. I do what I need to do to make sure that the job gets done, and it gets done to the best of my ability, and that it's accurate as best that I can. I enjoy what I do. I'm committed to providing excellent public service. I will continue that commitment throughout my career. My experience and qualifications make me, I feel, a perfect candidate for the Office of Register of Deeds.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Casey. Mr. Bedini, your closing comments.
I believe the citizens of Crawford County have an opportunity to elect a very qualified person for the position of Register of Deeds. And I believe I'm that candidate with 47 years of experience in dealing with deeds and mortgages. And I also have been held accountable for accurate records my entire career of 47 years.
Okay, very good. I hope our audience members will give both of our candidates a round of applause. Thank you again, both of you, for joining us. Thank you to everyone who attended in person and watched on TV tonight. Thank you to Pat Richardson. You did a great job tonight. Yeah. But I will remind everyone before we break tonight that 1 week from tonight, we will have 2 more forums focusing on state races, the race for Kansas House of Representatives District 13 and Kansas Senate District 3. We'll be right back in this room on Thursday night for those forums, so we'd encourage you to join us for those if possible. Thank you again to the City of Pittsburgh for hosting us today, and with that, we are adjourned.